I want to bring in now defense attorney Bob Bianchi. Welcome, Bob. We have him on the phone. Talk about the appearance. So this appearance, we had him, he was set to face a judge in the courtroom, and his attorney did not want him to face a judge, but the judge denied that, and he wanted him to be here. But the upcoming appearance in March, he is saying that he can waive his appearance on that. So, I mean, there's a little bit of an inconsistency here. Is there a reason behind that? Maybe, he did want him to appear today, but not in the upcoming months?
Well, the judge wants to set the preliminary stage to make sure the defendant is aware of the charges and in the initial proceeding is aware of bail conditions and things he can and can't do. So it's not unusual that a judge would say, at this stage, he needs to appear so I can make sure he knows all of his rights. But as we proceed down the line, if your client voluntarily waives his presence at certain stages, I'll allow that to occur because I don't consider that a critical court moment. But Shyann, one thing I want to say is that working off Joey's point just a minute ago, I thought it was really interesting because as a defense lawyer, you've got to be very careful when you ask for preservation of evidence, especially electronic data, because if you come up with something that's bad, you could be actually assisting the prosecution's case. So as a defense lawyer and as a former prosecutor, when I hear a defense lawyer is actually asking for the preservation of electronic data, it says to me the client indicates something in that data, as Joey used the term, is exculpatory or that would assist the defense. I think it's a very odd request at this stage.
At this point, I have to move on, though, but one-word answer. Do you expect any jail time?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Bob Bianchi, thank you. Our Jean Casares is following today's arraignment. Joins us also live from outside the courthouse in Nantucket. Jean, kind of break down what you're hearing and seeing. There's probably a big scene outside now.
Sure. First of all, I do want to show you because right over here you see that crowd. You also see a lot of cars blocking. But what is happening is that everyone is waiting for Kevin Spacey to walk out of this courthouse. It was a brief proceeding, and the amount of media here today is really extraordinary because Kevin Spacey was ordered by a judge to appear in this courtroom for this arraignment. Now, the interesting thing, this arraignment turned into some legal arguing, really, about discovery, because according to the accuser, when he was sexually assaulted by Kevin Spacey in a local restaurant that's about 2 blocks away, that it happened for about 3 minutes, and he was texting his girlfriend at the same time saying what was happening, allegedly, and the girlfriend didn't believe him, so he took a fast picture on Snapchat, and that we understand what it shows is a hand touching clothes. Don't know whose hand or what clothes, but that the defense said, we want to see those exact texts between the accuser and the girlfriend. And we not only want July 7th and 8th of 2016, but we want 6 months after that. And we want it preserved because it's discovery. We have a right, and we believe it could help us.
Certainly a new detail that we learned there in that hearing. Jean, talk about, this is a very close-knit, smaller community. What's been the reaction to this? Obviously, people flocking to see this actor, but what else? Anything?
Well, on the one hand, there's a steady stream of cars, and there are some commercial vehicles, but a lot of people are just driving around today. Everyone knows what's happening at this courthouse. People, I think, I haven't heard a lot of opinions except that people are concerned that a local young man who said he was 23 to Kevin Spacey, when Kevin Spacey said, are you of age to drink? He said, yes, I'm 23, and he was 18. And that Kevin Spacey then allegedly bought him drink after drink after drink, 4 to 5 beers, and then 4 to 5 shots of alcohol at the bar. And this was where this young man worked. And so that is on the minds of a lot of people here, underage drinking, that it was allowed to happen. They don't feel it's good publicity for the island, but of course, those in the camp of the accuser believe this is all about justice and sexual assault and unwanted touching that was done without someone's consent, because that is what the accuser is saying.
All right, Gene Casares, thank you so much for your insight on this. I know you're on it, and you will continue to give us details as they unfold. Let's go back now to a criminal defense attorney, Joey Jackson. I asked, the question. I only gave Bob a couple seconds to answer, but do you agree with Bob on this jail time? Do you expect Kevin Spacey to get any?
Bob is a brilliant lawyer, former prosecutor, and now an esteemed defense attorney. The disagreement that I have is that I don't think that he'll be convicted. I mean, given the evidence that I hear so far, that's a bold prediction. But what I'm hearing, if this is what the prosecution is basing its case upon, I'm a bit troubled that they don't have the goods. I think what he has to worry about, that is Mr. Spacey, is he has to worry about the judge letting in all kind of extraneous information. We saw that in Cosby, Shyann, where there were multiple other victims and accusers and everyone else. In the first Cosby trial, there were only a couple, and then the next trial, the judge lets in 5. I think the same thing here, because that also has a tendency to poison a jury. Hey, this guy's a serial, sexual assaulter, and let's hold him accountable for this. But I'm very troubled by the evidence. I mean, just using common sense, never wanting to blame the victim, never wanting to take anything away from the victim, and different people react differently under certain circumstances. But if someone has their hands in my pants for 3 minutes, I mean, if it's not consensual and I don't want it, what specific step do you take to stop it? Do you say no? Do you say, Mr. Spacey, I respect you greatly, but that's not what I do? Mr. Spacey, can you remove yourself? Can you then remove yourself or go away, which he eventually did? But to be Snapchatting and saying to his girlfriend what happened, and then remember he was also drinking, etc. And it sounded like two people who were very much having a discussion and some type of consensual flirting at a bar. And so we're long a ways from the presentation of evidence. We don't know what discovery will develop, but if the facts are based upon as I see him here, not only do I see an issue of jail time, but I see an issue of a defendant who very much has a defensible case and could be found not guilty.
Bob, I want to give you a chance to respond to that too, but I just want to kind of set the scene for viewers. As we can see the images right now, you can see an SUV leaving the courthouse in Nantucket. Kevin Spacey said to be inside that vehicle. But Bob, would you want to respond to Joey?
I agree with everything Joey says, even though we're coming to different conclusions. But Joey and myself discussed a lot the Cosby trial, and I think that's the key factor here. I was not appreciative, or I didn't think it was necessarily correct to pile on complaint after complaint after complaint based on an evidence rule called 404. I won't get too technical. But Joey's right. That poisons the jury. So there are some oddities about how this was presented by the victim. But when if they allow evidence, which I suspect in this case they will. I'm not saying it's right. In fact, I don't think it's right. But in cases where there's high-profile people, this is what prosecutors do. They try to put up as much bad character evidence as they can. And when you add it all together, it kind of almost forces a guilty verdict. And I think Joey and myself agreed with that in Cosby. If that happens here, I see a conviction. If it doesn't happen here, well, then the defense definitely has the very arguments that Joey is making.
All right, Bob, Bianchi, Joey Jackson, thank you both for your expertise on that.